Hi math students, this is our lesson on systems of linear inequalities. In the second part, we are going to focus on being able to use a system of inequalities to represent and solve a story. In the do now, you practiced writing a system of equations from a story. We did that earlier in algebra. Now we're going to be doing the same thing except using inequality signs like less than and greater than instead of equal. So for our example, we have Malia has $500 to purchase water bottles and pairs of socks for a fundraiser for her school's cross-country team. She needs to buy a total of at least 200 items without buying too many of just one item. The first part of this problem, in order to help us create our graph, is we want to write a system of inequalities. Remember, system means there's going to be two, and inequalities means we're using these symbols to help us represent it. Because it's a system, I'm going to start the same way we started systems of equations and identify my two constraints, my two types of information I have for this situation here. One type of information is money. We know one of her limitations is she has $500 and the limitations of the prices over here. We have the socks are $3 each and the water bottles are $2 each. So one of my inequalities is going to be all about cost. The other inequality is going to be about the number of items. We know she needs to get a total of at least 200 items. So this other inequality is going to be describing how many items she's getting. For our cost, when I put it all together, I know that each pair of socks costs $3. So we could say $3 multiplied by the number of socks. And I'll write that down. X is going to represent the number of socks she's buying. We know she's also paying for $2 for each water bottle. So 2 multiplied by the number of water bottles. And Y is the number of water bottles. And then altogether, she has $500 she can use. So she can use less than $500 or equal to $500. 500 is the maximum. For our other inequality, we know she needs at least 200 items. That means 200 or more. So I could say, no multiplication here, just the number of socks she's buying plus the number of water bottles she's getting needs to be at least 200. So she could get more than 200 items or equal to 200 items, but 200 is the minimum. This right here is our system of inequalities. We have two inequalities we can use now to create a graph of the system and use it to help us solve this problem and identify what are possible numbers she could buy. In order to graph the system of inequalities, look at these two inequalities. They are not ready to graph yet. So the first thing we need to do to help us graph is we're going to solve for y to get it into slope-intercept form. So for example, for 3x plus 2y is less than or equal to 500, I'll start by subtracting 3x on both sides. And then I need to divide by 2. That gives me y is less than or equal to 250 minus 3/2 x. My other one's going to be easier to solve. We have x plus y is greater than or equal to 200. I want y by itself, so all I need to do is subtract x. And we have our second inequality is y is greater than or equal to 200 minus x. Looking at our inequalities here, I'm noticing my y-intercepts are 200 and 250. So when I go to create my graph, I know I'm going to have to count by some larger numbers. Our x-axis, remember, is going to be the socks. Our y-axis is our water bottles. And let's go ahead, we can make every other line 50. So 50, 100, 150, 200, and 250 for both of these. And that means I can definitely fit my 200 and my 250 when I go to graph those. The final part to this is going to be using what you learned in past lessons to graph both of these inequalities. This part is review, so you should pause this video, try to graph both of those inequalities, and then come back to check and see how you did. When you go to graph these, I'm going to start with the purple one. We have a y-intercept at 200, so I have a point there. And then our slope is -1. Now, obviously, it's hard for me to go down 1 to 199 on this graph, but remember, -1 over 1, that would be the same thing, for example, as -10 over 10, or -100 over 100. All of those, when you divide, give you -1. So you could use any of those to help you see. For example, I could go down 100 and over 100, and there's another point here. There would be points all along this line. Just one example. Because it is greater than or equal to, that or equal to tells me it's going to be a solid line. And then because it is greater than tells me I want to shade up. For our other inequality, I'm going to do it in pink. This time our y-intercept is 250, so I'm starting there. My slope is -3 over 2. Similar to what we did here, you can use larger numbers to help you see that these would be some of the points on that line. It also has or equal to, so I'm going to do a solid line. And then because it's less than, I am shading below the line, or down, so it's this section here. Remember, for a system of inequalities, the solution is in the overlapping area. So on our graph, there are 4 parts. Which part got colored both times? Well, as I'm looking, this little part right here, this little tiny section, it didn't have any coloring, so it's not there. This high part up here that's mostly purple, it's only purple, so it's not that part. Same thing down here, this is all pink, so it's not that part. It's just this little overlapping section right here. This is where our solutions are. So for example, what's a possible combination she could buy? Maybe she wants to buy this point right here. That would be 25 pairs of socks and 200 water bottles. That's an example of a solution to this system of inequalities. Now, there are definitely more points in there that you could use. All of those other orange points, that's just one example of a solution to the system where she would not spend more than $500 and she would have at least 200 items. That's your example for this part of the lesson. On the back, there are 2 for you to try. Try those and then check with me to see how you did. That's everything for this video. Thanks so much for watching.